Looks like we're live. Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Azuzin session. Let's make a little bit of an announcement and officially start the stream. So, red circle, right circle, live on Twitch. And what are we doing today on twitch.television website? That's a very good question. So today we're doing a legendary text editor development. How about that? So I'm gonna give the link to the twitch.tv/Zozin, right? So, and then I'm gonna ping everyone who's interested in being pinged, and there we go. The stream has been officially started. That's what happened. So today we're gonna continue developing a DED, which stands for Dramatic Text Editor. Right, so you can find the source code for this thing here in the chat. I'm gonna copy paste it in the chat. And for people who's watching on YouTube, potentially, we don't really know if it's gonna be on YouTube, you can find that in the description. So I'm gonna try to copy paste that in the description. So let's take a look at the text editor. In the previous text editor development stream, we did actually something cool. Right, so let me actually fetch all the stuff. Actually, I don't remember if I have some stuff in here, so I don't. Fetch prune origin. Right. So we did something cool. We made sort of like a token-aware syntax highlighting, right? I already have everything up to date. I don't know why I'm updating everything. Everything is already updated, apparently. Right, so this is how the text editor looks like. Off screen, I did a little bit of work, and I made the camera not as annoying or vomit-inducing as it was. Right, so essentially on one of the previous streams I said that the camera looks good only when you have no code. Now I made it so it looks okay-ish if you have some code. Right, so if you start typing, as usual, pretty cool dramatic camera action. And as you type more, right, so as you can see, it leans to the left side, right? It kind of leans to the left side, right, a little bit, I think, if I recompiled everything correctly. Yeah, there we go. So this is basically how it looks like, and it allows you just to write very simple hello worlds and stuff like that. Right, so it also adjusts accordingly, right? So which is kind of cool. So this is what we have. And the same thing works for the file manager. As you can see, it sort of like moves a little bit to the left. It has like a bias towards that side. Also, it takes into account the size of the window, right? According to the size of the window, it also resizes. It also does these things. So everything is working. Everything is working correctly, more or less, and it's actually pretty freaking cool. I don't know how it looks like on the actual stream. Because of the smooth action, I can presume that there are some sort of like artifacts. I feel like maybe I need to increase my bit rate, but I'm not sure if my computer is capable of encoding that many bits. You know what I mean? You don't really want to increase the bit rate too much, because it's too many bits, man. You can't handle this many bits in 2023. So the idea for today's stream is rather straightforward. So as you can see, we have a lot of different effects and stuff like that, and obviously that involves OpenGL, and obviously that involves shaders, and you can find the shaders here in the source code, right? There is a folder literally called shaders. Right, if you wanted to know where all the shaders for the text editor are located, they're located in a folder called shaders. You open it up and here are all the shaders. So specifically this rainbowish effect is controlled by the simple epic. The simple prefix is for the simple renderer, right? So before we had complicated renderer, now we have a simple renderer, right? So if you open it up, right? If you change something within that specific shader, it's not going to be automatically applied. It will require the program recompilation. But here's the interesting thing. The shaders are compiled at runtime. So wouldn't it be cool if I could edit the shaders in the editor itself, press some magical keys, and it will reload the shaders and automatically apply all these epic effects, and I could just like edit and modify without closing the editor. How about that? Does it sound cool? I think it sounds pretty freaking cool, so let's implement that. Let's fucking implement it. So that's basically the idea for today's stream. So we've got a couple of subscriptions while I was explaining. So thank you everyone who subscribed. Jiang, thank you so much for 44 months. 44 months of tier 2 subscription. Thank you. Twitch.tv. It is. We are, in fact, on Twitch.tv website. So, Lego Megger, thank you so much for 6 months of tier 1 subscription with the message hello. Bean Lab, thank you so much for 4 months of Twitch Prime subscription with the message hello. Guale, thank you so much for Twitch Prime. Thank you. And Marcioneta, thank you so much for gifting 10 subs to 10 lucky people in the chat. Right, thank you. Alrighty, so let's go Uwu, I suppose. So let me see. I'm going to go to dead and let's actually see where we're loading the shaders. Right, so I'm pretty sure all of the shaders are loaded in the simple renderer. There's probably some sort of an initialization constructor. Right, so here's the init method, and this is probably where we load all of the shaders, right, if I'm not mistaken. Right, so let's actually go, and here it is. There's literally a method called compile shades. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that compiling the shaders is that simple? So here we're like reading the entire file, right? So we're reading the entire file into string buffer. String buffer is a very interesting thing. I don't remember if I explained it on the stream. Right, but it's essentially just like a dynamic array, but for strings, for characters. It's a dynamic array of characters, and it's very convenient because it allows you to just like create new strings, or maybe concatenate if you want to construct path or something like that. So you can read an entire file into string builder, and then you can do something with it. So compile shader source, we just compile it, and we just free whatever we allocated. So I suppose we can just like call this thing again, right, when we press some sort of a key. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. So we need to decide what's going to be the key though. Right, so let me see. So here is the place where we do all of the keys. So we have, I feel like I want to do F3 or something like that, right? So maybe SDLK F5, right? Something like F5, because like in the web browser, F5 refreshes the web page, right? So I think it kind of makes sense. Right, so let's do simple renderer, and maybe we're gonna call it reload shaders, I don't know. Right, so, but I forgot, how do we usually call the simple renderer? It's called SR, right? Okay. So it is in fact called SR. So we don't really need to provide any file paths to the shaders because they are right now hard-coded. As of right now they are hard-coded. Maybe in the future they're not going to be hard-coded, but it is what it is right now. And I wonder, do we need to check if it fails? I'm actually not sure. I think if it fails, we should just simply print something to the std error, right? So at least for now. Simple renderer. Let me copy paste this thing in here. Right. So simple renderer. Simple renderer C, and where is initialization? There we go. So there's some sort of a huge to do. I don't remember why I put it in here, but it is what it is. So the first thing we probably need to do, we probably need to delete the current program, right? So we want to delete the current program. And if I remember correctly, there was literally a function for that, gl delete delete program. By the way, we were recently working on a very interesting project that allows to index and search within the OpenGL documentation or something like that. It's not particularly finished, but it was just something that I was playing with. Right, so let me try to do that. Maybe I'm gonna upload these streams of me developing this system on YouTube, Maybe not, I have not decided yet, but I think they're good enough to be uploaded on the YouTube website. Yeah. Anyway, so essentially the idea, we have a docs.gl a folder in here, right? So this entire thing is open source. And we have a bunch of XML files in here. And the idea was that to go through all of the documents in here and use TF-IDF on them, right? So it's a term frequency inverse document frequency. It's a way of sort of like indexing documents and deciding how relevant a particular term to that document, and then ranking the documents according to that. So I was just experimenting doing with that, and yeah, let's actually try to use that to search within the OpenGL documentation. It cannot open the files, but it can at least tell you which file is relevant to your prompt that you put in a query, if you know what I mean. So the way it works, maybe I need to fetch some other stuff. Let me actually see. By the way, so this entire thing is of course available on GitHub, and maybe I also gonna upload the stream developing this thing on YouTube as well. So there we go. So local search engine. It's written in Rust, by the way, if anyone cares. Right, so because Rust is a cool language apparently, right? It's the most loved language according to Stack Overflow, a dying website that is going to be killed by ChatGPT. Isn't that, you know, important? Okay. Origin master. Oh, it's actually called main. All right. So let's actually try to build that. On YouTube.commercial. On YouTube.commercial. So, yeah, if the website ends with .net, it should be .network. Am I right? Very funny, I know. Rust. Yes, it is written in Rust. So, but we're not going to be programming in Rust today. Don't worry, I just want to test some things. So as far as I know, I just have to index the folder. Right, I'm going to say index docs.gl. It's going to go through all of the folders and just like index them and stuff like that. Crates.input-output. Yes. So, and we are currently indexing docs.graphical library website. That's what we're currently doing. Documents.graphical library. Skipped 72 files, holy shit. Well, I mean, it skips files when it cannot parse them as XML, right? So after that, what we're gonna do, so it's supposed to generate index.json, right? So it went through all of the files, it generated the index.json, basically the index. So the index.json takes 3.2 megabytes. Right, what we want to do, we want to actually serve this index.json, actually JSON, there we go. So, and it will actually start the web server, hopefully. We'll see. And actually, I have to do that with the release flag. Right, I have to do that with the release flag. Because I want to be fast, and let's actually go to here, right? So provide your query, right? So the usual thing I put in here is, for example, if I want to find GLSL, linear interpolation, right? It will give me smooth step, which is not correct. It's supposed to be mix, right? So, but I mean, with a little bit of improvement in indexing things, in tokenizing, I would say, I think we will be able to provide more relevant documents. But essentially what I want to see, will it give me the correct document if I say delete program? Yeah, it actually gave me the correct document. So the function is delete program. Right. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So essentially it uses a TF-IDF, as already mentioned. So if particular term is very frequent in one document, that document becomes very relevant to your query. But if the document is also frequent in all of the other documents, it becomes less relevant, because that just basically means that that word, that term, is a noise, right? For instance, the article, right? The occurs in all of the documents very frequently. That means it's probably irrelevant to all of them, right? So that's basically how TF-IDF works. So yeah, maybe I'm going to be using that to search for these things. So it doesn't open anything, but it at least gives me the name of the function that I can then just search in here and see and do something about. Alrighty, so deletes the program, frees the memory, and invalidates the name associated with the program object created by the program. I wonder if there's something like a delete shader, right? So you can, yeah. So there is delete. The indexing works really very well. It always puts the most relevant documents at the top, as you can see. Very, very cool. I really like that. So there's a delete shader, and I wonder if I have to delete the shaders. I remember some time ago, we discovered that you can basically delete the shaders after you compiled the final program, because the way you do that is you compile the shaders, you link the shaders, and here you program. So after you link them, you don't really need the shaders, if I remember correctly, so we can just delete them. We can verify that. We can very much verify that. So if we go to the simple renderer, so I attach the shader to the program, right? So then we so we attached all of the shaders in here, and we linked all of the programs. So what I'm thinking is that, do we replace the shaders anywhere? I didn't think so. Yeah, we do replace them. We do replace them. So that means what we have to do, we have to try to take this second shader, and after compiling everything, we can say something like gl delete shader. So delete shader, specified invalidates memory. If shader object deleted is attached to program, it will be flagged for deletion, but it will not be deleted until it is no longer attached to any program. Oh, that's very interesting. For any rendering context, value of 0 for shader will be still ignored. Okay, so yeah, essentially, if you try to delete something that is in use, it's not going to be deleted until the final program is deleted. Okay, so that makes sense. And if I take a look at the program, right, if I take a look at the program, program objects, the program object, the current rendering status, flag deletion will not be deleted. If a program object to be deleted has shaders object attached to it, those shaders object will be automatically detached but not deleted unless they have been already flagged for deletion by previous calls to delete shader. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. Right, so essentially we create the program and we just delete this shader immediately, and after we iterated through all of the fragment shaders, we need to also delete shader 0. There we go. So basically the idea here is that we have one vertex shader, right, and multiple fragment shaders, right? So that's why we have an array of 2 shaders. So we compile the first one time, but the second one multiple times, because we're iterating through several fragment shaders, right? So, but we are reusing the same vertex shader. So that's why it's a little bit weird, but this is how it works right now. It is weird, but it works. Right. Alright, so let me take a look. So this is shaders. So is it going to compile? Unused parameter. So let me actually say unused SR, and then I'm going to say unimplemented. So this is currently unimplemented, which means that if I accidentally call this function, it is going to crash my entire laptop. I mean the program, right? So telling me you know that something's wrong. Should it be I. No. It should not be I. The question is, shouldn't be I. It should be one. Right, we have two shaders. So the first shader is always the same, but the second one is always different. It's really weird. I know. It's really weird, but this is how it works right now. Yes. Okay, good. Now we recompile that, and the only thing I want to see if does this still work. It does in fact still work, so all of the shaders work properly. So here is the proper tokenization, and if we take a look at that, everything works perfectly. Okay, so deleting shaders does not break anything, right? Does not break anything. So it also says that it will still use this program as long as it's still part of the current rendering context. And I wonder if there is any way we can essentially switch the program. We can create a new program and just do GL use of that program, and I think it automatically will fix everything. So yeah, I guess that's totally fine. So we have a bunch of programs in here, right? So in a renderer, we have a bunch of programs. Where are the programs? Where are the programs? So here are the programs, and we have as many programs as we have shaders. So what I need to do, I need to iterate through all of these things. So this is the count simple shaders, and here I'm gonna do GL delete program, and then SR programs I. There we go. So after that, I just need to repeat this entire process one more time, which I suppose I can literally do like this. Right, I'm gonna copy paste this code, and that's literally it. I think that is literally it. So let me try to compile. Of course, this is a duplicate code. Of course, I understand that, but it's just like 2 times. It's a 2-time champion of the code. Right, so which means that maybe I'll factor it out later. Oh, there we go. Here's the to-do that we're currently implementing. How about that? So I can actually remove that thing. Right, so I can actually remove that thing. And let's put it somewhere here. So I need to allocate some stuff on the stack. No idea what any of that GL lingo means. Dude, same. Freaking same. After using OpenGL for quite some time, it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse, trust me. So things start to make sense less and less, and at some point you find yourself programming on Vulkan. So okay, it seems to be compiling. That's pretty cool. Now, let me see if it still works. It in fact still works. And if I go now... Oh, I can already press F5. I forgot that I already, you know, associated that stuff. So let's go ahead and just open some of the shaders, right? So some interesting shaders. So what are the shaders that we're currently using? So we're currently using text. So we should be able to quite easily make all of the text red, right? So I should be able to do something like vec4 1001, right? So, and then I'm gonna do F5. And did it do anything? I think it literally didn't do anything. 3, 5. I keep pressing this thing and it does nothing, and I wonder if I recompile shit. Oh, you know what? I forgot to save the file. One of the things I need to do, I need to save it. So interestingly, I log when I'm loading the file, but I never actually log when I'm saving the file, right? So I think this is something that I want to fix super quick. Let me actually go to src editor, save as. Right, so, okay. Let's do printf. So write entire file, we're using these two things. Okay, saving as like this. So for some reason I want to have two separate logins between these functions, even though they do the same thing. But I don't think it's really that important. Because here the difference between these functions is that this one provides the file path, this one just uses the internal saved file path. It's like the difference between you know, save and save as in the menu of the normal text editor. If you take a look at the normal text editor, right? So there is save and save as. There is also save all. For some reason I can't start my boomer stuff. It doesn't allow me to do boomer. Huh. Ooh, I cannot start boomer, but anyway. Yeah, so that was the idea. So in here, I take file path and I take the items, which is the pointer to this entire thing. Alrighty. So we're saving this thing in here, and what I want you to see is what's going to happen if I refresh the... There you go. This mother flipping worked. As you can see, I can now modify the shader right in here. That is very, very cool. I think, in my opinion, that is so freaking cool. So, you know what would be even cooler? If I could do the rainbowish effect, like here. But I'm not sure if I can easily do that. Right, because to do the rainbowish effect, I need to copy-paste this thing. But there is no way for me to copy-paste anything in here. So Control-C doesn't work. Maybe we can implement Control-C, Control-V to work with the clipboard and stuff like that. So for now, let me actually quickly get rid of that because I didn't think it's particularly useful. Right, so that's pretty cool. I'm already a developer within the text editor within the text editor, so it's actually pretty cool, I think. There we go. So we have a proper highlighting in here, right? So that's pretty progress, if I do say so myself. All right. So I remember that SDL had some sort of way to work with the clipboard. Right. So get clipboard text, set clipboard text, and there we go. So it accepts null terminated text. Disgusting. My God. So store to in a clipboard. Right. So because the thing I want to do, right? The thing I want to do. I have some text and I select it. So just because I selected it means that I have a region within the buffer of the text editor. So that means by definition I don't have a null terminated text, right? So that means I'll have to copy it somewhere. Dude, if you just accepted size text, it would be easier to pass C string there. There's something interesting about null terminated string. Size string is sort of like a subtype of null terminated string, right? It's super easy to turn null terminated string into a size string without any memory allocation, but not the other way around. So by making your function accept size strings, you actually support both size string and null terminated string. Yeah, because it's super easy to just like convert this thing into size string. I bet X11 or something only takes null terminated string Sadge. Well, the situation is even worse than that. Like, the fundamental syscalls of operating systems such as Open also accept only null terminated strings. Right, and Open, the thing that just opens the file, right? And such a fundamental thing, like you cannot go lower than Open, right? Unless you go into the kernel, but I mean, you can't ship the, you know, your own kernel with your application, right? So null terminated strings are like deeply rooted into the operating system, and there is like no way to escape them, like whatsoever. Yeah. So let me see. How we're going to be doing all of that. So we have some sort of a selection, right, in the editor. So there is a Boolean selection, which indicates that we're currently selecting something. Oh, by the way, we've got another sub. Script C Bebia, thank you so much for Twitch Prime. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. So, and essentially, if this variable is true, that means we have a selection between these two indices, right? So they could be in any order, right? So you have to make sure that one goes after another if you want to copy this thing. And what you have to do, you just have to take that text, maybe copy it to a temporary buffer, right, and null terminate it properly, and then give it to the SDL clipboard. Okay, so let's actually create a function that does Control-C. Right, so editor, copy to clipboard. Let's actually call it something like clipboard copy, because then I can have a clipboard paste, right? So editor E, right? So two very simple functions. Two very simple functions, but that makes the editor clipboard coupled with SDL, which is maybe a good idea, maybe not a good idea. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see. So E unimplemented. Editor clipboard copy. Then we're going to have a paste. So now I want to have some sort of a bindings for both of those things, right? So we need some sort of a bindings. We're gonna do them here. But we need to check for the control. So okay, we already have control A. Oh, we have control A that selects everything. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Huh. I want to see that for some reason. Okay, so I'm gonna open this and I can select everything. Okay, that's pretty cool. So by analogy, I can do case SDL K C, right? So this is gonna be Control C, and I already know how to check if the control is currently held, right? So if it's currently held, I'm gonna do editor clipboard copy, and I provide the editor, the pointer to the editor, like so. And similarly, we're gonna do Control V, right? So V clipboard paste, right? Clipboard paste, and let me see. Okay, so let's actually try to run this entire thing. Let's try to run it. So I can select that, Control C, it should crash, and it crashes precisely in here. Right, so we're only gonna do this thing if we are in a selection mode, right? So only if we are in a selection mode. And if we are in selection mode, we need to take a look at things like cursor. Right, I'm gonna save the, let's go begin, and this one is gonna be end. Selection begin, which is rather weird, right? Right, but it could be bigger than the cursor, right? So we have to check if begin is greater than the end. We need to swap them, right? So we have to do swap size t begin end, and then just swaps them. So let's actually do one-liner like epic software developers. I mean, it doesn't make you a better developer. I'm just want to do it like this. All right, so we have some text, so which we can try to access. So I suppose it's located in the data, right? So this is the items. This is where the text starts, and this is where it ends. All right, so this is where it ends. I'm thinking that we probably want to copy it to some sort of a buffer, right? So we need to allocate that buffer. So we're gonna use a string builder, right? String builder, and let's call it a clipboard, right? So this is gonna be a clipboard. So before copying anything into the buffer, into the intermediate buffer, we probably want to clean it up, right? So I'm going to do clipboard, and I'm going to set the count to 0, right? So essentially, we can take a look at how string builder works, right? So it's essentially a growable array of characters. It's a dynamic array of characters, right? So you have a pointer to the beginning of the memory where pre-allocated memory starts. You have a counter, how many things already occupied with string builder, and capacity, how much already allocated, right? So essentially, if you want to reset this thing, you just set count to 0. You still have allocated memory, but this is the memory that you can use, right? So whatever we have, we reset it to 0. And then the string builder has a method sb append buffer, right? We can take a look, sb append buffer, which is essentially a macro that accepts the dynamic array, the data that you want to append, and how many elements of that data you want to append. So essentially what we can say, all right, so we want to append into the clipboard. The data starts at the beginning, right? So it starts at the beginning. And how many of these things we have? Well, we have end minus begin, right? Probably plus 1, right? So essentially, if you have numeration like this, the begin is here, the end is here, you subtract 4 from 0, you get 4, but in reality, you have 5 elements, right? So you have 5 words in here, so that means you have to do this extra 1 to get 5, and that's why I put 1 in here. You probably can't see. Oh, you can see, but at some point you won't be able to see. So let me actually put some stuff in here. Right. So we can control what is visible and what is not. All right. So we appended all the data into that buffer, and now I have a special thing called append null, which effectively just appends a null thing at the end of it. So now we have a clipboard that we can pass to the SDL clipboard, right? So, and everything is null terminated properly, more or less. So, and this is basically the temporary buffer that we're going to be reusing every time we copy something, all right? And none of the memory allocated by all of these processes is going to be deallocated. It's going to be basically reused all the time. Right, so let me just do clipboard items, and this thing apparently can fail, right? So this thing apparently can fail. Return value. So let's just log this thing, right? If this thing returns 0, right? I'm gonna do fprintf std error, sdl error. SDL get error. Alrighty, so let's try to recompile this entire thing. And what I want to do, I want to test this entire stuff, right? So I'm going to say hello chat, and then I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to press Ctrl C. None of the error has happened, and then I'm going to try to copy paste this thing in here, hello chat. So we already can copy from the text editor, not into the text editor, but at least from the text editor. So that already kind of works, right? So that's very useful. So another thing that we need to implement is Control B. So basically pasting from the clipboard. Actually pasting from the clipboard. So this one is going to be really interesting. So, and once we implement that, we'll be able to open different files in different places and just copy paste chunks from one file to another without closing the editor. And that's precisely what I want to be able to do. All right. So that's pretty cool. If we take a look, right. Editor has insert character, right? It allows you to insert a single character, but I want to have something that allows you to insert several characters, right? So char, maybe let's call it buffer, right? So it's going to be a pointer to a buffer and the buffer length, right? And I want this thing to insert several characters, right? Because I'll be able to get the pointer from the clipboard and just pass it there, and it will just do the thing for me. Right, I'm just double checking whether I don't have that method already, right? Because I remember kind of implementing it, but maybe I didn't implement it. All right. So, all right. So editor insert buffer, insert character, right? Maybe I'm gonna actually modify this function to work with multiple characters, right? So what we're looking at, if the cursor is overflown, right? If the cursor is overflown, we essentially snap it back. I think it is useful for inserting several of these things. After that, we are appending a single 0 in here, and I suppose it is done precisely to allocate a new character just in case, right? So what I'm thinking, maybe we can kind of do the same thing, right? But do that n times, right? Bufflen plus I, just, you know, push this amount of zeros in here, and it's not going to allocate on every di append call, right? Because it actually pre-allocates things. All right. So now we can do mem_move, right? So we're basically moving chunk of memory to you know, leave some space. So let me see now. So this is +1, and I'm going to be assuming that, so this is the destination, and we need to do plus bufflen, right? Plus bufflen, and here maybe minus bufflen, right? Because essentially when bufflen becomes 1, it becomes a special case of this thing. Or rather, this is a special case of this thing with bufflen equal to 1. I think that's more correct way of saying that. Right. All right, so we moved it around like so. And then we actually, instead of like assigning this thing in here, we have to do memcopy. We have to replace this call with the memcopy. And the question is how we're going to be doing that. So memcopy, let me see, memcopy. So we take a destination, right? The destination is going to be probably a thing at the cursor. Yeah, the thing at the cursor. Yeah, data items, e cursor. So this is the data cursor. The source is the buffer, and the n is the buffer length. There you go. So we just copy the thing that we wanted to insert. After that, we need to increment the cursor by the length of this stuff, right? So after that, all of the tokens are screwed up, right? We need to retokenize everything, right? And retokenization, if I remember correctly, includes retokenizing the lines and also the syntax highlighting. All right. So, and maybe we can then say, all right, can we just implement this thing in terms of the insert buffer? Is that a good idea? Because maybe it is a good idea, right? Because now you can say, okay, fuck that. Just do E. And in case of X, take a pointer to X, right? So a single variable is actually an array. Yeah, this is the cool thing about C, right? So there is a great level of frustration with C and its arrays, because arrays degrade to pointer to a first element, right? And there's virtually no distinction between arrays in C and pointers, if you know what I mean, right? So, and it's kind of confusing and it's like really frustrating, but it's actually at the same time a very cool idea, right? So you have a variable, you can say, okay, this is a single variable, but at the same time, if you take a pointer to this thing, it is a pointer, but also an array with a single element, and you didn't allocate any memory. It's the same memory location on the stack, and it can be viewed as a single variable or as an array with a single element. So yeah, it's confusing, yes, but if you wrap your head around it, it actually makes sense and it's actually pretty cool. So I have a thing that accepts like, you know, array with the length, and I have a variable, and I can just like take a pointer, and there you go. It's basically like that. It's pretty cool, I think. I think it's pretty cool, pretty epic. Alrighty, I hope I didn't break shit. I hope I didn't break that much shit. So here I just like pre-reserve some additional stuff. Okay, so I actually modified a very essential function. If I broke something, this won't work, but it works. Right, so, but it works. So let's actually test it out. So what do we have? In case someone is Control-V while holding selection, shouldn't the clipboard content replace selection content? Correct. It's absolutely correct, but I'm gonna implement that later. It almost worked. Alright, so essentially I implemented an ability to insert arbitrary text, but I forgot to actually call this thing when we're doing the paste, right? So let me just quickly do that. Insert buff, right? So let's do insert buff, and we're gonna just call it in here, I suppose. So, and what's gonna be the buffer? We need to get the clipboard, and it just returns the null terminated thing. In case of an error, returns the clipboard. Column must be. Seriously? I thought in 2023 we were over this style of memory management where you call a function and it returns you something that you have to free yourself. I thought we were over this already in 2023, and people still do that in C. Insane. Absolutely insane. Anyway. So what I usually like to do, I like to have, right, essentially maybe I would probably have like a local buffer that is owned by SDL, and I would say, okay, just like don't save the pointer to the result of this thing between the calls of this function, right? And that way you don't have to think about memory allocation or deallocation, or even better, just use arenas, right? So, but I mean, nobody uses arenas in C. Very often, right? It would be kind of cool if they were part of the standard library, right? And everyone was just shedding into the same arena, so you can just manage all of the libraries that depend on that, but whatever. Anyway, so that's totally fine. That's totally fine. It is what it is, and it isn't what it isn't. So we have a text in here, right? So if text is null, which is rather weird. Returns success or empty string on failure. Oh my god, it doesn't return null on a failure. It returns an empty string, and that's why you have to call SDL free even in case of a failure. Okay. I mean, fine, I'm not complaining, everything's fine. So that means I have to take the length. It's like, this is why C has a bad rep. Like, this style of programming is exactly the reason why C has a bad rep. Right, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't really have to be like that. Anyway, so, and then I mean, it's actually not that bad, right? So you just always take this thing and always take the length. And then, if it's 0, this is an error. So you have to say, if greater, insert, let's put it this way, text, and then you do SDL free. Okay, this is not as bad as expected, so it's rather reasonable. Looks alright. In case of an error, we can just like log the error, right? So just like put it in here. I guess it's alright. So, and it's always like does SDL3. And since it's not a very, frequent operation, right, the allocation is not going to be a huge problem. It's not like we're doing that on each frame, am I right? So we're only doing that on a specific key. Imagine allocating and deallocated on each frame. Alright, so, shit. What the hell is going on with my... Yeah. Why is my chat so huge? Okay, so I have my cursor on the text box so notification doesn't go away. There we go. Here's your text. This is what you said. That's pretty cool. So, yeah. Isn't it cool? I think it's pretty freaking cool. So now we can have this kind of stuff. So now I can copy paste that and then go here and copy paste it in here. So as you can see now, I can just like interact, between the applications and stuff like that. So we have a clipboard support. Right, so that's pretty epic. That's pretty cool. Okay, then. So let's do a committee, and maybe even a pushy. So we have that. I want to have a separate commit that just adds the clipboard support, right? Without shader reloading. Though shader reloading, I think it's kind of important as well. Right, so let's say add support for clipboard, right? And I'm gonna push that right into the repo. Alrighty, so let's go. Implement reloading the shaders, and I'm gonna also push that right into the repo. So the reason why I wanted to implement all of that is because I want to be able to now, for instance, go between the shaders and copy paste the text between the shaders, right? So if I go to the shader, right, so here's the shader, here's the text, right, so for instance, I modified the text, the color of this thing. Let's make it, I don't know, maybe purple, right? I think that's purple, I think. Right, so let's see, and something, oh yeah, there we go. Oh, this is so cool. So the function that compiles shaders worked under different conditions. It worked under different conditions. So basically, if there is any compilation error, it would just crash the whole application. But now, since we have a host reloading, I think crashing the whole application is not particularly reasonable thing to do, right? Because, yeah, it is definitely not a reasonable thing to do. So what's interesting is that, what if something wrong has happened? You could not recompile the shaders, but you already deleted your previous program, right? Because the first thing we do with when we're reloading this stuff is deleting the entire program, like nuking the entire program. Reload, where is this simple renderer? Reload shaders, right? But what if compiling the new program failed, but you already deleted your program? So essentially what I'm thinking is that maybe only nuke the old program when the new program compiled successfully. You know what I mean? So just keep the old program, compile new program, and as soon as new program compiled successfully, only then go and delete the old program and then just use the new one, right? Otherwise, just don't do that. So I think that's a reasonable thing to do. So essentially maybe just swap these things places, right? So as you can see, first thing we do, we delete the previous program, like so, right? But let's do that later. But essentially that means that we should not link all of that into the right into the renderer. So we need to have an intermediate program like this: GLE int program count simple shaders, right? And we have to do that into here, like so. Oh, it cannot find that shit for some reason. I don't know why. Emacs is... oh, okay, so it was just like selecting this thing in here and I couldn't see that. Alright, so I just want to do it like this. So as you can see, it is essentially doing it like that. Oh, it's crashing because I'm doing an exit in here. That makes sense. So maybe I should just not do an exit. That makes sense, I think. I think that makes sense. So, alright. So if we couldn't compile, right, we want to kind of do a fallback. Right, we want to do a fallback. So, yeah, essentially, if it, for example, if we manage to compile several of them, we have to, but one of the last one is failed, we have to sort of destroy the previous ones, right? So, yeah, we need to like have a defer statement or something like that. But I think before we go into this madness, I want to make a small break and refill my tea, right? Because I'm starting to fall asleep. So that means it's a time to make a cup of tea. So, all right. So what I was thinking, maybe to make my life a little bit easier, I'm going to essentially compile all of the shaders, regardless of whether they failed or not. And then at the end of the process, I'm going to look, has any of them failed? And then I'm going to sort of revert the entire process again. I'm not sure how good of an idea this is, but we'll see how it goes. Most importantly, I'm interested in what's going to be the value of the assigned shader, right, of the assigned shader if it failed. I don't remember. So let me take a look at the compile shader file. Right, so it can fail in here if we couldn't read this entire thing, and then we pass the pointer in here. Right, so it creates it right away, but then it may essentially so just because compiling the shader failed doesn't mean it was not created, right? It doesn't really mean that it was not created. So maybe that's totally fine, right? Maybe that's totally fine. Right, which means I can just do it like that. So let's have some sort of a variable which is called OK. And initially it's going to be true, right? So initially it is true. And then if something failed compiling, we're going to say, okay, this is false, right? And every time something is failing to compile, right? Something is failing to compile or to do something, we're going to say, okay, false, okay, false, but we're not going to crash everything, right? So we're not gonna crash. So for instance, just because we failed to link doesn't mean that we don't have a program that we need to delete, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't have any attached shaders that also might fail to compile. So all of that does in fact make a lot of sense, right? And after that we can say, okay, if everything compiled successfully, right? If everything's compiled successfully, we delete the previous program, and then we say programs I becomes the new program in here, right? Actually, we'll have to maybe iterate through all of these things so we can say programs I. That's actually not a bad idea to do it like that. Yeah, there we go. So we just keep deleting these things and we keep replacing this entire stuff. If it failed though, right, if it failed, we're gonna do a completely opposite thing where we just delete whatever we created in here. Right, and we'll have to delete it nonetheless because we created them even if we failed to compile and link them properly. I believe so. Right, so that's pretty cool. So, but the problem here is that if I remember correctly, link program uses the program under the hood. Does it? GL? No, it doesn't. Okay, so that's cool. So let me see. I suppose in initialization of the simple renderer, init, where is init? So we create a program, but the question is, where do we use it? GL use program. We use it in a set shader. Okay, so that makes sense. So that means we don't have to set anything. And also, once we recompile the program, do we need to... I suppose that is it. So everything should just work automatically. Everything should just work automatically. Okay. So let me try to start this entire thing. So this is programs. Programs. So probably should be called programs. So I think it will crash right now. Yeah, it will crash because the right now the shaders are incorrect. So when we compile a shader at the beginning, any error results in a crash. But if we're compiling at runtime, it will not result in a crash. So the first compilation must be always successful. I think this is a reasonable behavior. Right, if you're compiling the initial shaders, they always have to succeed, otherwise you have nothing to fall back to. Right. So that's kind of a reasonable behavior, I think. Okay, so let's actually remove the changes to the shader and let's try to recompile one more time. So now I'm gonna go to the shaders. Right, so I'm gonna go to the shaders and I'm gonna break some of them. Right, so I'm gonna remove semicolon. Unbelievable. And I'm gonna try to restart it. And as you can see, it failed with the linking, though visually in the text editor it's not really visible. Right, but if we just do that, I'm gonna save that and I'm gonna recompile the entire thing, everything seems to be all right. Right. So the fact that we broke something, right, the fact that we broke something didn't crash the whole editor. It spitted out an error in the log that we can inspect, but the editor keeps working correctly, and this is precisely what I was looking for. Right, so I think I actually achieved the goal. Though it doesn't really say that it reloaded the thing successfully. I think this is something that we'll have to fix. So we do that in where? Simple renderer, right? So if we go to the simple renderers, there should be a function somewhere. I hope it's not too vomit-inducing, right? So we have compile shader, link program. Unfortunately, I can't search for things. Simple renderer init. Okay, so this is a simple renderer init. And simple renderer reload. Right, and for instance, if something was loaded successfully, right, so this is where we do all of that. Right, I probably want to print something like reloaded shaders successfully. Right, and we're gonna just do it like that. I'm gonna save this entire thing and I'm gonna restart. Right. So why are you selecting? Alright, so I'm gonna try to... Yeah, as you can see, it says reloaded shaders successfully. Alright, so now I can actually, you know, edit my own text editor within the text editor. Alrighty. So the thing I want you to do now, the most important thing, right, is to play with the shaders a little bit, right? So I want you to play with the shaders. Right, so again, let's try the usual test where I just multiply this thing by a random color, right, like so. I save everything and I refresh the shader. Something went wrong. So there's no vec4. Okay, so it has to be called vec4. Let's save that, and there we go. As you can see, we reloading the shaders. Everything seems to be working correctly. Right, and then here now I'm gonna remove this thing. I can't actually select and remove it because the text edit doesn't support that. Right. Right, there we go. So everything seems to be all right. Now I want to go and grab the epic shader, right? So whatever rainbowish stuff you see in here, it is controlled by epic shader, and it's done by utilizing HSL to RGB, right? So HSL to RGB, right? So the reason why I was fiddling with Clipboard, because now I want to do the following thing. I want to Control C, then go to the text, right, and simply copy paste it in here. So as you can see now, within a single session I can go to one file, grab some text from one file and put it into the another one, right? So I mean, in all of the text editor, it feels like a norm. We take it for granted, right? But we're developing thing from scratch, right? We're not using already components of the text editor, right? So we literally have to allocate a buffer in the memory where we store the characters. Then we have a separate variable for the cursor, and we tokenize, and like we do everything from scratch. And well, I mean, we used abstraction layer for clipboards and stuff like that. Okay, so we used SDL a little bit. Oh, Kashi, what's up? How do you store strings lines? This is a good question, right? So, but before answering this question, I want to acknowledge a sub. Fedratini, thank you so much for 21 months of a tier 1 subscription. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, the way I store the lines is actually very dumb, believe it or not. I have two buffers. The first buffer stores the content of the file in a continuous memory, like just continuous memory, including new lines, like everything. And the cursor is just a number that points at the current character in that continuous memory. So this is the first buffer. The second buffer that I have is lines, right? And lines are views within that continuous buffer. Lines are views within that continuous buffer. So here's the data, right? So the continuous buffer, and the lines, if we take a look at a single line, it's two numbers, begin and end. So, and essentially I have a function that retokenizes the lines once in a while. You modify the text, then you can call recalculate the lines, and it goes through the entire text and just like it calculates the synthesis. And it is actually super convenient because you can quickly find a line, you can quickly find the beginning of the line, the end of the line, and you're still within the continuous buffer. You're still within that continuous buffer. And surprisingly, this works really well for the files, for the size of the files that I use, right? It may not work with maybe like 10 gigabytes of files or something like that, but I'm not editing these files right now. When I'm starting editing files like that, then I'll start worrying about things. But for now, it's actually totally fine, and it's rather fast. I also love buffer continuity, feels nicer to work with. Yeah, it's just natural, right? Because the more you fiddle with the different data structures, right, to speed things up, the more mental overload you put on your code, the more difficult it becomes to like do things. So as long as it's like dumb, it's just super easy to like manipulate and do stuff. It's just like so pleasant, and it actually works surprisingly well. So I did the test with this data structure, and for example, it managed 100,000 of lines, easy. I couldn't notice a thing. It was the latency was better than Visual Studio Code. Right, but that is excluding the renderer. So I had a version of this text editor that is basically in the terminal, right? So it uses the same data structure, but it renders in the terminal, and it's just like it's super easy. Like even like big source code files, right? So 100,000 lines of code is just like already too much, and it just handles that. It's like easily. You can insert in the like characters in the middle, and every stroke you can retokenize the lines just fine. So yeah. And honestly, I have no idea what Visual Studio is doing to be this slow. I don't know. Droka87, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you so much for the sub. But honestly, I don't really care about the performance right now. I'm pretty sure you can come up with a case when it's gonna be super slow and you need something smarter, but again, I don't really care about it right now. Okay. So I copy-pasted HSL to RGB, and what I want to do, I want to save this thing, and I'm gonna go to the Epic thing, and let's take a look. So we compute the rainbow, right? We compute rainbow based on the time, which means that we do have time. Okay, so let's go to the text, and time is a uniform. Ooh, I think I copy-pasted some extra stuff. I hope it's not a bug. I really hope it wasn't a bug. Fuck. Okay, so then I compute the rainbow. And I'm gonna go here. So as you can see, this selection is not reset. And I'm gonna say, okay, so now instead of using that boring text, multiply by a rainbow. And I'm gonna refresh this entire thing, and something went wrong. Alright, so let me take a look. Frag UV is undeclared. Alright, so time is undeclared, but I'm pretty sure I actually declared it. I think I forgot to save it properly. Right, so I remember actually taking this thing. So frag UV, what is a frag UV? So this one is important. So let's put it in the text as well. Alright, so it's a part of this thing. And then epic stuff. Uniform time. Yeah, I think it's a bug. That I'll have to fix at some point, but we'll see. At least I have a reproducible thing. Frag UV is used uninitialized, but this is not true. This is because you don't have a resolution. Okay, so we'll have to include the resolution as well. So maybe I'm gonna just do it like that. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, and all of that within a single session of the text editor, right? So now I can switch between these kind of things, and then I can say, all right. So let's put it like this. I'm gonna comment out this stuff and go back to this one. Oh, we don't handle the inline comments yet. Yeah, we're gonna handle them at some point. Right, but then we can do it like that. And switch between that stuff. It's pretty cool. So all of that is controllable, all of that is easily controllable, and that is actually super cool. Right. So let's do a committee, and maybe even a pushy. Right. So there's a couple of bugs that I discovered while copy-pasting things, right? Sometimes it includes some weird characters or whatnot. Right, I'm gonna investigate that already off screen. Right, so I'm gonna investigate that already off screen. Okay, gun. So what did I do? So in here we just handle things a little bit differently, right? So fall back to previous shaders if the new one failed to compile, right? If the new one failed to compile, we're gonna push that right at the river. All right, so I think I'm gonna end the stream a little bit earlier. because my sleeping schedule is actually kind of screwed up, so I'm a little bit sleepy right now, right? So I don't want to put too much stress on myself, but I actually initially didn't want to stream today because I felt a little bit sleepy, right? But then I decided to stream anyway because I haven't streamed for quite some time already. And the reason I didn't stream is because I was uploading the VODs. So recently I started to do this thing where I have this VOD uploading session. I don't stream for a week, and for the entirety of the week what I do is upload the VODs to Tsoding Daily YouTube channel, right? So you can find it on YouTube, Tsoding Daily. All right, so, and like the reason why I do that is because I have a huge backlog of OLFC streams that I haven't uploaded, and they are very important for me because I streamed a lot of cool shit in there that I want to actually document and archive properly. I don't want this stuff to be lost because it's basically an entirety of things I know about computer graphics, almost, I think, if I didn't forget anything, but yeah. So that's why I have these sessions where I just like upload as many as possible, right? I need to archive and document everything. So yeah, today's stream was actually rather productive. We implemented a very cool thing, right? I hope it was interesting. Thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all of the subs and beats and stuff like that. And I see you next time. I love you all. Mwah.